My mother-in-law, Sandra, left her phone face up on the kitchen counter while she stepped outside to take a call. The screen had not locked yet. I was standing at the sink rinsing out a glass, and I glanced over without thinking. The preview text was right there. A group chat. My name. A number. The number was about my salary. It was not wrong by a little. It was wrong by enough that someone had clearly made it up. Someone had told a group of women I have met at holiday dinners for 4 years that I was struggling financially. That someone was sitting right there in the chat. Sandra. Her name right at the top of the thread. She came back inside. The screen had locked. She picked up her phone and slipped it into her pocket. She had no idea what I had seen. I did not tell her. I asked if she would like more coffee. She said yes. I refilled her cup. We talked about her garden and my job and a movie her daughter wanted to see that weekend. I was pleasant for the remaining 90 minutes of the visit. I kissed my wife goodbye at the door. I drove home. I did not say anything for 3 weeks. Not because I did not know what to say, because I was deciding exactly when and how to say it. And Sandra did not know that yet, but she was about to find out. My name is Paul. I am 38 years old, and I run a small logistics company out of an office near the airport. Self-made, private about money, the way some people are private about their health. I have never volunteered numbers at dinner tables, and I have never corrected assumptions people made about me in either direction. That restraint cost me more than I knew at the time. My wife Lydia and I have been married for 4 years. Her mother Sandra has been a consistent presence from the beginning. Sunday dinners at their house, holiday gatherings, the occasional weekday visit when Lydia was home early. I have always been cordial with Sandra, not warm in the way Lydia is warm with her. That is not my register, but present and respectful and genuinely without grievance. I had never had a reason for grievance until the phone on the counter. I built my financial position over 10 years before the marriage. Carefully. No inheritance. No safety net. I am not wealthy in a visible way. I drive a practical car. I do not talk about money at family dinners. I do not correct people's assumptions about me. This restraint created a gap I did not know was there until later. Into that gap, Sandra built a story. 3 months before the phone incident, she made a comment at a Sunday dinner. Said it lightly. An aside about how tight things can be when you are still getting established. Directed at Lydia, but landed near me. Lydia laughed it off. I noted it, filed it as a misread, and moved on. Sandra measured family, standing through the lens of her friend's perception. She had been quietly constructing a version of me that served a purpose I did not yet understand. I would remember the comment later. I would remember exactly where I was sitting and what I was eating and the way she said the word tight. Like she was being kind by not saying something worse. The night of the kitchen counter moment, I sat in my home office after Lydia went to sleep. I was not agitated. I was precise. I thought through what I had seen on that screen. My name, a number, the context of the sentence around it. I reconstructed the visible preview text word by word from memory. I'm good at this. Holding details. The sentence was not ambiguous. It was specific, and it was false, and it was written in the casual tone of someone sharing established fact with people who already believed it. Over the following 3 days, I observed Sandra differently. Thought back across 4 years of family dinners and Sunday visits and holiday gatherings. Replayed specific moments through a new lens. The comment at dinner 3 months ago. A moment 2 years ago when Sandra's friend Patrice looked at me with a specific kind of sympathy at a family barbecue. I had not been able to account for it at the time. A conversation I overheard a fragment of at Christmas where Sandra was talking to her sister and used the word difficult in a sentence that ended when I walked into the room. All of it landed differently now. I went through my own financial records. Not because I needed to verify anything, because I wanted to hold the actual numbers in my mind clearly. My savings, my investments, my income for the past 3 years. I looked at the numbers for a while. They were solid, the result of a decade of discipline. Entirely inconsistent with what Sandra had apparently been telling her friends for over a year. I closed the documents. Went to bed. Did not wake Lydia. Sat in the dark of my office first, though. Did not call anyone. Did not draft a message. Did not say anything out loud. I just held what I knew and decided consciously and deliberately not to move yet. 3 weeks of silence buys me time to decide exactly where I want the knife to go, and I'm going to use every day of it. The first Sunday dinner after the kitchen counter moment arrived 6 days later. I went. Lydia was surprised I did not try to get out of it. I did not explain. I just went. I was the same person I had always been at Sandra's table. Present, cordial, unhurried. I helped clear the plates. I asked Sandra about her garden, which she had been replanting. She talked about it for 10 minutes. I listened. Lydia caught my eye across the table at one point with a look that said she was glad her mother and I were getting along. I smiled back. I meant to smile. I was not performing. I was waiting. Midweek of the second week, Sandra called Lydia. I was in the kitchen when Lydia took the call in the next room. I could hear the shape of it. Sandra's voice through the phone. Lydia's responses. The rhythm of a call between a mother and daughter who spoke easily. At one point I heard Lydia say my name. Just my name. In the middle of a sentence. The neutral tone of someone answering a question. I did not try to hear more. Finished what I was doing in the kitchen. When Lydia came back, I did not ask about the call. She sat down at the table across from me and scrolled through her phone. I watched her for a minute. She had no idea what I was carrying. That was not her fault. It was mine. I had chosen not to tell her. In week 3, I made a decision about method, not what to say. I had known what to say since night 1. The decision was about setting. I wanted Sandra to understand what I knew in a context she could not reframe or exit dramatically. Not a confrontation, a revelation. I thought about where and when. Identified the right moment. The next family dinner. 10 days away. I marked it in my head and went back to my week. One evening in week 2, Lydia asked if I was okay. Not about Sandra, just generally. I said I was good. She said I seemed quiet. I said I had a lot on my mind with work. She said okay and rested her head on my shoulder. I sat there and thought about the 10 days remaining. Did not tell her. Did not even know if I would. The decision not to tell my wife what I knew about her mother was the most complicated part of the 3 weeks, and I was running out of time to make it. 5 days before the family dinner, I told Lydia. Not the full plan. What I saw. I sat her down on a weeknight after we finished eating and walked her through it. The phone on the counter. The preview text. My name. The number. The sentence. I told it factually, without any editorial. The same way I would present a document at work. I watched her face as I spoke. She did not interrupt. She just listened. Lydia's first response was not what I expected. She did not immediately defend Sandra. She did not immediately believe me fully either. She sat with it. Asked if I was certain about what I read. I said yes. Asked if it was possible I misread the context. I said no. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said she wanted to see the chat herself. I told her I had not seen the chat. Only the preview on the screen before it locked. I could not show her something I did not have. She looked at me. I could see her working through the gap between what I was telling her and the version of her mother she had always held. That gap was real, and it was not small. I did not rush to fill it. I just waited. She said she needed a day to think. I said I understood. She did not sleep well that night. I could tell by the way she lay still. Not the stillness of rest. The stillness of something turning over and over without anywhere to land. In the morning she made coffee and brought me a cup without being asked. That was the thing she did when she was working something out and did not yet have words for it. I took the cup. We sat at the kitchen table. Then she said, I want to be there when you talk to her. I said okay. At that kitchen table, she asked why I had not told her when it happened. I said because I needed to be sure I was going to handle it the right way before I brought it to you. She asked, and are you? I said yes. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she nodded once and drank her coffee. Lydia was now inside this with me, and she wanted to be present when it happened. That changed the dynamic entirely. Sandra would not be facing me alone. She would be facing her daughter too. I did not know if Lydia was prepared for what her mother's response might reveal. Neither did she. but we were about to find out together. The night before the family dinner, Lydia called Sandra. I did not ask her to, and I did not listen in. I went to the other room and sat on the edge of our bed with my hands in my lap. The call lasted 12 minutes. When Lydia came back, she was quiet in a specific way. Not angry, not sad, something else. She sat down across from me and told me that during the call, she had asked her mother casually whether she had mentioned anything to her friend about my finances. She kept it light. Sandra said she may have mentioned at some point that things were an adjustment early in the marriage. Nothing, just conversation. I sat with the word adjustment. Thought about the number in the preview text. Thought about the word difficult I had heard at Christmas. Thought about Patrice's sympathetic look at the barbecue 2 years ago. Thought about over a year of group chat messages I had not seen and the friends of Sandra's who had been holding a false picture of me for that entire time. Adjustment was not the word for any of that. I did not say this to Lydia. She knew her mother's phrasing. She knew what she had heard. I let her hold her own version of what Sandra had said, because the gap between that version and the truth was already getting harder for her to ignore. That night, Lydia asked me what exactly I planned to say. I told her, walked her through it the same way I had walked her through what I saw on the phone. Clear, specific, no surprises. She listened to all of it and then asked one question. Was I going to be kind? I said yes. She said, I need you to be kind, even if she is not. I looked at her. She meant it, not as a plea, as a condition. I said, I will be. She said, I know. Then she turned off the light. Neither of us said anything else for a long time. Before the light went off, she said quietly, I am sorry she did this. I said he did not do it. She said, I know. I am still sorry. I told her to get some sleep. She did eventually. I did not for a while. Lying there in the dark thinking about tomorrow, not with anger, but with the specific focus of a man who had been patient for 3 weeks and knew the patience was almost done. Kind and soft were not the same thing. I had promised to be kind. I had not promised to be soft. And Sandra had already begun constructing her defense. Adjustment. I was going to let her say it again tomorrow. Then I was going to show her what the word actually meant. We arrived at Sandra's house at 6. She opened the door and was the version of herself she always was for Sunday dinners. Warm, capable, the house smelling like something she had started that morning. She hugged Lydia. Then she hugged me. I let her. Took off my jacket. Helped bring dishes to the table. I was the same person I had always been at that table. Sandra did not know yet that tonight was different. Dinner proceeded normally for 40 minutes. Sandra talked about her friends, the women from the group chat, by name, in the easy way of someone who had no reason to think their names carried any charge. I ate. I asked questions. I was present and warm and gave Sandra nothing to read in my face. Lydia was quieter than usual, but Sandra did not appear to notice. When dinner was finished, I helped clear the table, brought the last of the dishes to the kitchen, came back into the dining room, sat down, looked at Sandra. I told her I wanted to share something with her. My tone was the tone I use in professional settings when I am about to present something that requires attention. Sandra looked at me, set down her coffee cup. I told her that 3 weeks ago at her kitchen counter, I had seen the preview of a message on her phone. Describe what I saw. My name, the number, the sentence. Told her the number was not accurate. Told her the actual number. Did not raise my voice. Did not accuse. Simply corrected the record. Sandra said, I don't know what you think you saw. I said I know what I saw. She said that could have been about anything. I said it had my name in it and a number that was not my financial situation. I wanted her to know the accurate number so that if it came up again in that chat, she would have the right information. Silence. Sandra looked at Lydia. Lydia looked back at her mother and did not help her. Sandra said I was just talking to my friends. I said about me. She said it was not meant to be hurtful. I said I believed her. I also wanted her to understand that it had been going on for over a year and that I had known about it for 3 weeks and said nothing until tonight. I was telling her now because I would like it to stop. I picked up my coffee cup, drank from it, set it down, waited. Sandra's first move was to Lydia, not to me. She turned to her daughter and asked if she knew about this. Lydia said yes. Sandra asked why no one had come to her sooner. Lydia said she wanted to be present when it was addressed. Sandra's face did something then. I watched it with the attention of a man who had had 3 weeks to prepare for exactly this. It was not guilt. It was the look of someone recalculating which position was most defensible. Sandra said she thought this had been blown out of proportion. I told her to tell me how. She said she talked to her friends about her family. That was normal. I said sharing inaccurate financial information about me with a group of her friends for over a year was not something I considered normal. She said she did not think I would ever know. Then she stopped. A pause. I let that sit in the room. Lydia looked at her mother. Sandra appeared to hear what she had just said. She said that was not what she meant. I asked what she did mean. She said it was not meant for me. It was private. I said private for me. About me. She said she had been worried about Lydia. About whether she was being taken care of. I said she was. Sandra said she did not know that. I said she could have asked me. She had had 4 years of Sunday dinners to ask me. Sandra opened her mouth. She closed it. Lydia said quietly, "Mom." One word. Sandra looked at her daughter. Something in Sandra's recalibration stopped. She sat back. She said she was sorry. She should not have discussed my finances with her friends. I nodded. I said thank you. Meant it without warmth and without coldness. Meant it as an acceptance and a close. The remainder of the evening was short. Sandra was subdued in the way people are subdued when they have been caught not in malice, but in something more complicated. A habit of narrative that had served a purpose she had not fully examined. I did not press further. Did not need more. I had gotten the apology I wanted and the acknowledgement that what happened was real. I helped Lydia with her coat. Thanked Sandra for dinner. Meant that too. In the car on the way home, Lydia was quiet for several minutes. Then she said Sandra had meant the worried about Lydia part. She thought that was actually true. I said I knew. Lydia said that did not make it okay. I said no, it did not. We drove for another few minutes in silence. Then Lydia reached over and put her hand on my arm. I did not say anything. I just drove. Sandra called Lydia the following morning. I was not in the room for the call, but Lydia told me about it afterward. Sandra said she had been thinking about everything and she wanted me to know she genuinely regretted it and that she had always respected me. Lydia reported this neutrally. No editorializing. I said I appreciated Sandra saying so. Meant it at about 70%. Kept the 30% to myself. 2 weeks after the dinner, Sandra's friend Patrice sent me a connection request on a professional networking platform. The woman with the sympathetic look at the barbecue 2 years ago. I looked at the request for a moment. Accepted it. Did not know exactly what Sandra had said to her friends since the dinner. Did not need to know. The request told me something had shifted in the information those women held about me. That was enough. Patrice would not be sending me a connection request if she still believed I was struggling financially. Someone had corrected the record. I did not need to know who or when or why. The correction was the only thing that mattered. I ran into one of Sandra's other friends a few weeks later. Gloria. Met her 3 or 4 times over the years. She was at a professional event downtown. She was warm with me in a way she had not previously been warm. She asked about my work with genuine interest. Mentioned she did not realize what I did professionally. I told her briefly. She said she was impressed. I thanked her. Moved on. Did not tell Lydia about the Gloria encounter. Did not need to make a point of it. Driving home from that event, I thought about Gloria's face when I described my work. The interest was real. The not realizing was real. Someone had been correcting the record. I did not know if it was Sandra directly or whether the truth had simply moved into the space where the false version used to be. Either way, the space was different now. I drove. Did not call anyone to report this. It was simply noted and filed and done. The next Sunday dinner would come. Sandra would be there. I would be there. The record was clean. That was enough for now. But clean record and clean relationship were 2 different things. I still did not know which one I was going to get. The first Sunday dinner after the conversation was 3 weeks later. Lydia and I arrived at 6. Sandra opened the door. She hugged Lydia. Then she hugged me, slightly differently than before, a carefulness that had not been there previously. I noticed it, did not address it, took off my jacket, asked about the garden. She told me she had put in a new section along the back fence. I said I would like to see it. She took me outside to show me. We stood in the yard looking at what she had planted. She named each thing: Russian sage, black-eyed Susans, something else I cannot remember the name of. I listened. We went back inside for dinner. At the table, Sandra asked me a direct question about my work. Not a polite question, a real one. She had clearly prepared it. I answered fully. She listened and asked to follow up. I could see her building a picture she should have built 4 years ago. I helped her build it, was not generous about it in a way that required acknowledgement. I was simply present with it. The conversation moved to other things. Lydia talked about her job. Sandra asked about a trip she knew we were planning. Normal dinner, but the normal felt different. Cleaner. On the drive home, Lydia said that was better. I said yeah. She said she was trying. I said I know. Lydia looked at me. She said you were patient. I thought about the 3 weeks. Thought about the phone on the counter and the preview text and every Sunday dinner between that moment and this one. I said I had time. She laughed. Not at the situation, just at me. In the way she laughs when I say something that is completely me. I drove. The road was quiet. I did not think about the group chat again that night. I did not wait 3 weeks to be dramatic about it. I waited because I understood that how you say a thing determines what it can do. I could have said it that same afternoon in Sandra's kitchen, and it would have been a scene. Her defense ready. Her position locked. No room for anything real to land. I waited until I knew exactly what I wanted to accomplish and exactly how to accomplish it. The apology came. The dinners continued. The record corrected itself. None of that happens if I speak the moment I see the screen. The 3 weeks were not patience for its own sake. They were the work, and the work was worth doing. I'm over at where silence ends. How long have you waited to say something because you knew timing mattered more than being right in that moment?